So before I introduce our speakers, I want to include a quick disclaimer. I just also told Shelley and Deidre, but like all of you, I'm working from home, and my kids, of course, are home with me and my husband. They're 3, 5, and 7, and they have a lot of energy and are very loud. So you might, during this call, hear some screaming or maybe see one of my kids running by. That might happen, but everybody here's okay. We're just ready for the weekend, and I'm going to try to, hopefully that won't happen. So first we have Shelley Westman. If you're a Master of Engineering Management student, you should remember her from September when she came and gave an awesome talk about cybersecurity. Shelley is an EY principal and partner and cybersecurity lead for the Southeast region. With more than 19 years of corporate experience in cybersecurity, strategy, hardware, supply chain operations, and procurement, she understands business risk and cyber challenges that her clients are facing. So prior to EY, she served as the Senior VP of Alliances and Services at Protegrity and held various roles within IBM. And for over 2.5 years, she was a board member with the National Academy's Board on Higher Education and Workforce. And I know that the topic of students and workforce and cybersecurity are very important ones to her. She also has a law degree from UNC School of Law and is a member of the North Carolina Bar. Thank you, Shelley, for not wearing your UNC shirt today.
Yeah, I was gonna wear it. I don't have any Duke shirts, so I was gonna wear the UNC one, but I settled. I don't think you can see. This is a generic North Carolina one.
Oh, perfect.
Inclusive to everyone today.
I think that's something that Dukies and UNC can hopefully agree on.
That's right, that's right.
So Deidre has also joined us. I'm so excited. This, I think, is Deirdre's first debut with Duke University. Yes. She's the founder and CEO of CyberSN.com, a cybersecurity research and staffing firm. She has founded Secure Diversity, which empowers all genders and specifically women to find careers in cybersecurity. And she serves as a strategic advisory board member of the International Consortium of Minority cybersecurity professionals, and is the former president and CEO of Percussion Software, where she still serves as an investor and board member. So I'm really excited that you all are here, and I'm just going to open it up for you all to share your insights into prospects in the cybersecurity field right now, one that is especially important at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. And Deidre and I are good friends. We work together a lot, and there's no one better to talk about what they're actually seeing in the market today than her. She has her own staffing firm. So she's actually like in the market every day, placing clients and you know, working with organizations. So she understands what's happened over the past 6 weeks due to COVID. I want to just kick off a little bit by saying from an industry perspective what we have seen, and then I'm going to pass it over to her. So since we have all gotten to work from home, many organizations, you know, pretty surprisingly in 2020, were not prepared for that. They've never had such a challenge where everyone had to pivot and work from home so quickly. So security is one topic that's extremely important, and that falls within the identity and access management space. You know, do you have multi-factor authentication? And for those that don't know what that means where it's asking you a second way to sign in. So if you are signing into your bank account and you have to get a text message that you put in a code, that is multi-factor authentication. It's asking you for 2 ways, your email, your password, and then this other code. So at EY, we've always had multi-factor. Since I've been here, we sign into a little token that changes every 60 seconds, but a lot of organizations have not rolled that out. On top of some of the challenges from working from home, we've also seen a very big increase in the cyber threats in the market. So the bad guys are not sitting around waiting for this to end. They are using this to their advantage. There's been stories on fake COVID maps going out that looks just like the Johns Hopkins maps, where the users click, it installs malware onto their machines. So all of that's kind of a long way of saying that, you know, cybersecurity considerations have not slowed down at all during this pandemic. If anything, they've actually increased. Most of my clients have seen a very significant increase in the threats that they are seeing. So it remains a very important function. And given that, we are still seeing opportunities in the market. So maybe with that, I'll pause for a second and hand it over to Deidre, and you can talk about, what you saw when it first hit us versus what you're seeing now, which might be more of a return back to normal levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that you're saying. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Big fan of Duke University. I have many friends that went to your great establishment, and they're very special to me. Okay, a couple of things. One is job searching is broken in general. So just know that while you're out searching for jobs, we have a broken system of how we find each other, how we onboard people from education to business. It is a system that is super complicated based on SEO and poor job descriptions. We find ourselves in a sea of a mess. So you're gonna have to work really hard, no matter what field you go into, to job search. Go to local events and meetups and do online projects and really get involved. That being said, cybersecurity is a place that has tremendous resilience. It's showing that now in terms of economic downturns, and it's going to show it forever as far as I'm concerned, and I think most experts are in agreement in that, the ability to protect ourselves is what we're talking about. And that's what the careers in cybersecurity are all about. In fact, what I thought I would share here real quickly on my screen is, would I be able to get access so that I can share my screen?
Yes,
Okay.
I can make you a co-host, and I think that should allow you to share your screen.
What I want to show you all is that there's 35 cybersecurity job categories. And not many people really understand this, and therefore, it's really important to see the vastness of what we've got going on here. And as you can see, there are non-technical roles, technical roles, leadership roles. And when you click into all of these, and you can find these on my website at cybersn.com, what you'll see is that, these are functional roles. Within even functional roles, there are specific jobs that are very, that are detailed in what these, versus just sort of a security analyst can be, as you see here, 6 different types of a profile. So what I encourage people to do is to not only think about cybersecurity, but to really find themselves, diving into what all these different types of roles are. Of course, the majority of the roles that exist today are in this technical category. These are the folks that are working with the products and the tools and really making sure that we're protecting, using those correctly, which is very technical, and still engaging with the business on needs. And these people over here, and of course, these people over here is what I mean by engaging with the business. We also have seen in the last few years a big uptick in governance and risk, privacy. Those roles are tend to be non-technical, and in leadership typically, because they're super tied to risk and guiding the organization. And yet being technical and understanding risk, governance, and compliance is super powerful. So I think I'll pause right here. Maybe we can take some questions or sort of, talk more on the job searching side or more on the cyber side.
Before we take questions, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Since we've been work at home, I think it's 6 or 7 weeks. It feels like 100 weeks to me. I don't know. But have you seen companies still hiring in this time?
Oh yeah, for sure. We're doing placements weekly, daily. Of course, I'm the largest cybersecurity staffing firm in the U.S., and so we are national. And we don't, luckily, or didn't luckily have clients in, let's say, the airlines or the cruise ships or the restaurants. That being said, they still need help. I'm sure they are keeping their cyber professionals. We have not seen layoffs. We've seen sort of a one person here and a one person there. And when you're talking one person here and there, and I can count them on my hands as the CEO, it's not a lot, although it feels like a lot to that person.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we are making placements on a regular basis. We saw everybody just pause for about 3 weeks, like everybody, all of us were in shock, right? All of us were, what's going on? How bad? Yeah, getting people at home, putting in policies. And so sort of we saw everything freeze, but it only froze for 3 weeks. Now, this is my 6th recession. I'm 29 years in my career. I've never seen that happen in sort of, let's call it tech staffing, which is where I've spent my life.
I think one of the other points I want to make, for those on the phone, and I don't know if this is the same group that I spoke with in September, but you may not have considered a career in cyber. Like, you're all in this engineering program. You may have considered a different industry. This is really a good time, I think, to get some of the extra specialties in cyber. I was reading the other day that Cal Poly Tech has announced a new cyber training part-time program that starts in July. It's pretty inexpensive. It's part-time for 26 weeks. That might give you an edge, when you're looking into the security market. There are also some very basic certifications. I guess I shouldn't say basic, but there are some certifications in the field. For instance, if you're really good at coding, you might take a certification on a certified ethical hacker, which would allow you to take one of those penetration tests. So I think there's things you can do even now at home to position yourself for entry into this field.
Absolutely. In fact, I just I did and recorded a live talk on just this conversation. What are the certs? How do you need to, job search in cybersecurity and get into it? It's posted on my LinkedIn profile. It's posted on our websites with Nathan Chang of WESIS. And we went through all the certs, which, sort of what they do, what types of positions they go with. I would really recommend looking at that. And you're absolutely right about that. Security Plus is a good one. And these are relatively short-term certs. I would also say, that joining online, projects like in GitHub and Capture the Flag. There's lots of great free Capture the Flag programs where they'll even take people that have never done one before and teach them how to do it. And I think that getting involved in a project would be really important.
The other thing I want to point out, if you remember, if you were in what I spoke about, we were coming into this with 3.4 million unfilled jobs in cybersecurity around the world. So this is a very, I was always saying, if you want a job that has zero unemployment, pick cyber, because we can't hire people fast enough. So given what's going on in a lot of the industries and the increasing threats that we're seeing, this is not a career field that has dried up or that we anticipate will dry up. The need for cybersecurity is going to remain strong. So it's a really good industry to align yourself with.
Yeah, and this DevOps, it's we've now got the term DevSecOps, Dev Security Ops. It's very common in our field. This is a great place for engineers, software engineers, to get into cybersecurity. It's a very needed position in communicating between security and development.
I've never seen anyone with as many tabs open as you.
Everybody says that to me, and I'm super secure on what they are, right?
Oh my gosh!
Look at all that.
Okay, so let's see if anyone has any questions for us. Carrie, how are they doing this? Are they
Chatting?
How are they showing they have a question?
They're going to use the raise their hand function. I have one question already.
Okay.
Jose.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. In regards to cybersecurity roles in industry, in let's say oil and gas environment or industrial environment, do you know which kind of certification of path will be specifically developed in that sense, which works not in IT but in operations technology? Have you heard about that kind of roles requirements? So it's not like someone working in an office or in a data center, but being care of working in a physical industrial environment. So those are, I have heard about some specific certifications and kind of profiles and experience and which I would like to explore too. Thank you.
I haven't heard of a security specific certification for energy or IoT or more industrial, if you will. What I do know is those are my clients. I staff for a lot of those organizations, and while they'll look for, you know, who wouldn't want somebody coming out of, you know, somebody in a similar industry or adjacent, but the reality is that the shortage is so great that if you really understand what it means to be a security engineer, an application security engineer, or whatever the role is, that they are willing to, they don't really care, you know, about the industry so much. Shelley, do you know any certs?
I don't know any certs per se, but I do know there's very specialized regulations within that industry. So within EY, for instance, we are organized really by sector. And there's a few sectors that have and require, you know, deep specialization. Healthcare is one of them because there's a lot of regulations in healthcare. Energy is another, and then banking is really another. So once you get into that area, you know, you do have to become very familiar with all of these different types of regulations that these companies are having. But I think right out of school, I agree that, you know, organizations are probably not looking for that specialization at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly not at entry level, but yet you're absolutely right. If you were going into risk or compliance roles, you know, having that knowledge is super important. The technical roles, it's super transferable. I see people going from banking to healthcare to energy. It doesn't matter at all.
Oh, great. I was asking because I have been checking some sites like from International Society of Automation. I discovered they do have some kind of a specific certification path, but they are quite expensive. So I was curious whether it was worth to try something very specific, or it's more convenient to go broad, and then once you're in industry, see if that stage is required or not. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we have a question from Divya, or I'm sorry, Dia.
Hi, I am actually an undergrad student. I realized coming onto this that there might be a lot more grad students, but I figured I'd listen and get from it whatever I could. So my question is mainly, I'm someone who is not getting a technical degree in engineering or something in that sort of field, but have some background in coding and am interested in working in maybe like the business intersection with cybersecurity or something along those lines. And I was wondering what the trajectory is for something like that, what traditional social science-based degrees are what people look for when they're going into a field or wanting to go into a field like that, but not necessarily wanting to get a technical degree.
That's one of my favorite subjects because that is me. I started off practicing law. I thought I was going to be a lawyer my entire life, and I hated it. And I was fortunate enough to go into IBM, and I had 12 jobs in 17 years, all of them very different. I ran operations, I was in procurement, I was in manufacturing, I ran strategy, I put offerings into market, and one day they gave me cybersecurity. And I'll tell you, I was one of those people, I changed my password 8 times in a row to get it back to my password. That was a long time ago, and before the companies got smart and don't allow that. So I had to say that I had zero training in cyber is probably not even accurate. I had negative bad habits that needed to be changed. And there is a huge intersection with business. You know, cyber is now an end-to-end career path, and they need people that have analytical skills, that can translate things to board of directors, that can sell, that can market these cyber things. So there's a huge opportunity for working in the cyber field. And even still now, I mean, I'm a partner at Ernst & Young, and I sell a ton of cybersecurity services. I can speak to any board or CISO about any topic in cyber, but I am not one that can go on the keyboard at all and figure out why there's been a breach. That's just not my skill set. And one of the things that's really I've used to my advantage is the fact that I'm able to translate the cyber speak into business language, because there's still a lot of people that have come up through this cyber path that are very technical and very hard to understand at the executive level. You know, they come in and they'll talk very minute statistics about what they've seen in their organization. They don't know how to do a metrics dashboard at an executive level. So I really think there's ways to use a differing background to your advantage in this space.
Yeah, I'd add to that that emotional intelligence, or skills, emotional communication intelligence skills is wanted for every role in any career at a great capacity right now. We have learned as a society that the ability to communicate with each other is so important that it actually supersedes our technical skills or any other sort of subject matter expert skills, because we are in the era of service, meaning we service each other, we work in teams for everything. There are no siloed jobs. The businesses work completely tied together, and that means you have to interact with other humans on a regular basis. And so people are interested in all degrees in cybersecurity. You'll find they don't really care, even if you went for a technical role. If you had the technical aptitude, they're okay with that. And so what I would say to you is that we're in an era of the degree aligning with the job doesn't really seem to be what you find in cyber. It's such a new industry. I'm the same thing. I'm a social criminal justice major, was going to be a criminal attorney. So, and I have a cyber team that reports to me. So, it's really about identifying what you want to do, having good communication skills, working on them constantly, and being, passionate about what you want to do is what people look for.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Totally.
Great. Okay, now we have a question from Tejas.
Thank you, guys. I had a chance to meet you, Shelley, a couple months back, and it's really nice to meet you. My question is more around some of the challenges that we face from working from home, not from the rates increasing because of COVID-19, but more along the lines of working from home is a completely different environment, and the infrastructure that your laptops and your devices connect to are also very different than an office environment, which is more controlled, and the company has a bit more control over. Now that is not the case. Going forwards, I'm imagining there will be more and more opportunities to work from home, because this is proven to a lot of companies that working from home does work. So how do you see, from a cybersecurity point of view, what some of the biggest challenges are in terms from working from home? Or what are some of the benefits? It could be either or.
Well, I think first of all, working from home, the biggest risk is your employees. Even if they start the work from home with good cyber habits, we all know that life is crazy right now. You've got kids that are screaming in the background. They want your attention. You're doing things at home. Their schools are closed. It's really easy to start having bad habits where you're letting them perhaps play on your work computer, or you're printing work things and then not properly disposing of them. So there's a lot of increased risks from people, not malicious things, but things that they're just, it gets harder to remember good cyber protocols as you're exhausted and tired and things like that. So the CISOs I'm working with, it's got to be a constant reminder about really good work from home habits. I think we're going to also see companies that don't have that multi-factor authentication quickly adopting it so that the communications in are more secure. I read an article yesterday, actually, interestingly, saying that people are spending 3 more hours per day working from home, and people are ready to go back to the office. So I'm interested to see if there is going to be more work from home, or people are going to, be so frustrated. I've heard that from all of my peers. We've now got calls at 6 and 7 at night that we never had before. And, you're having to spend more hours. But I think on the plus side, especially for the security organizations, is that now I think organizations will realize you don't need someone in the same location as you. And they're going to be able to find talent that is across the world or across the country to fill some of those spots. Whereas before, if a client was in Miami and they're looking only at someone who lives in Miami or will move to Miami, now they can hire someone who's in Kansas and can remote in. And that could be, better skills and less cost to them. Deidre, anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, I just, absolutely. The challenge of working at home is access, VPN access is more secure, Wi-Fi is using your own technology, systems overheating, not cooling systems, so the people are struggling with that, but it moved very quickly. People figured it out very fast. The few clients that we had that don't have remote workers, they figured it out very quickly, and we are hearing from those that didn't get to work from home before that they don't want to go back to a full-time schedule working in the office, and they're definitely going to be putting their foot down if they're told they have to. People have experienced this for the first time. We've found that those organizations that haven't yet open to a remote model to hire cyber professionals are now, because of this situation, knowing that people are going to be wanting to be at home for a while and this could go on for a year, so to speak. So they have changed their minds, but the ones that were already there, we're pretty plentiful. If we're short 500,000 in the US, then remote better be, sort of on the list of okay to, or you're really not gonna, hire somebody. So I think that we'll continue to see a lot of new progress, but, as Shelley said, you're only as strong as your team. And if there's a lot more phishing attacks going on now than ever, and that's still the number one thing that goes on. So whether we're at home or whether we're in the office, it's really how do we really stop that?
And I, for one, want to go back to the office. I'm sick of my home.
Yeah, a lot of people are that way. I think most people want the combo now.
Yeah.
So, we are working more now. Are we working more because we're home, or are we working more because we can't go anywhere?
Whoa. Yeah.
So I think
there's no separation. Someone sent me a note the other day saying, hey, are you going to be around at 7? I'm like, well, yeah, where am I going to be? There's nowhere to be. So before I might have been at the gym or doing something else, and now I'm like, yeah, I'm around.
Yeah, mine is like, well, I'm on a Zoom happy hour. What do you need?
All of those challenges sound really familiar.
Yeah.
This is Carrie again. I'm kind of ready for a few hours at the office. One thing, sorry, it's getting a little bit louder in the background here. One thing with our Pratt Master's students here at Duke is we have a really high percentage of international students, just like I think most STEM institutions across the United States. In terms of cybersecurity opportunities, what are kind of the barriers or opportunities specifically for F1 visa holders, international students, international H-1B holders, and sort of tied to that, can you talk about how cybersecurity experience, transfers from border to border? If they get experience here in the cybersecurity field in the United States, does that transfer to India or China or roles in Europe and in reverse? I don't know if that's too much in one question, but.
I'll go first. Let's start with the visa sponsorship. Companies like E&Y are sponsoring all the time and will always sponsor. I find that with their size, being a world company, that's what they do. I find that in the United States, the firms that are not international firms are not sponsoring cybersecurity unless they're in the Bay Area. I'm almost 6 years in business, and the only visa sponsorships that we see, and we do see a lot of them, about 40% of our business in the Bay Area are visa sponsorships with experience. again, you know, in cybersecurity, everybody wants experience. It's such a new industry. There isn't a lot of succession planning, which brings in sort of the entry level. And so I'm talking about experienced professionals. I don't place people without experience because firms aren't paying for that. So that's what I'm seeing from a visa perspective. Anything to add on that, Shelley, on the visa piece?
I think that there was, and I'm not an expert at all on this, but I know that there was some new rule, or maybe it's not new, but it made it even more difficult where you could only send people on those visas to a specific approved location. And those all had to go through the government to get approved. So if you were working with someone and you had to send them to New York, and then you had to send them to New Jersey, you couldn't do that. Or you couldn't even send them to Albany because you only had agreed to New York City. So I don't know that anything about this has changed. It does add some complexities, but I think organizations understand that there's a lot of talent in that situation, and for the right people will absolutely, you know, take on the extra work of getting those things approved.
Yeah, this administration has definitely made it harder. There's no question that throughout the 3 years or so, at different times, the different measures that have been taken have affected my business in the Bay Area. And just this week, the administration put on a 2-month, you know, visa restriction. So, you know, hopefully the next administration will get back to normal. We have a high population in the United States of immigrants. My father, most technologists, lots of technologists. So we need to get back to normal on that. That being said, normal so far yet in what I've seen, again, outside of the Bay Area is not sponsoring visas. And I do believe it's because in nature that it's security. And therefore, you know, U.S. citizenship is required. But hopefully, the country acts like the Bay Area soon.
Yeah.
And then the second question was,
It was a lot. Do you see, how does cybersecurity work in terms of kind of the national employment or national trends? Does your experience, if you develop, say if a student went back to India or China or another country and developed cybersecurity experience there, does it transfer to the US? And then also, you know, in reverse, can you go from roles in the US to say roles in Europe in cybersecurity or Canada?
Yeah, I think that, you know, what we were saying earlier with the technical roles, they're transferable for sure anywhere. The non-technical roles, I think, again, since they're based on risk and compliance and governance, might not be as transferable unless somebody is educated in international risk compliance and GRC or can get there with experience, for sure, would be my gut. Shelley?
We see people like within EY transferring to other geographies to take on assignments. So people will move to Canada or to London, you know, to take on a group of clients. So I would say yes from that perspective. To me, once you get into a large organization and you establish your credibility, it's much easier to do those sorts of things because you've already built up your brand and your reputation. And so they're willing to take a risk on you. But I would say yes, overall, cyber experience anywhere is great, right? If you've helped organizations do vulnerability management, it doesn't really matter which country you've helped them do the vulnerability management in, as long as you know those core things and can apply that to, you know, other clients, etc.
Great, thank you. I have another question, if we can switch gears a little bit to more right now amid COVID-19. I know you all talked about the increased cybersecurity threats amidst the changes. I've seen in the news that there have been some sort of, it looks like cybersecurity volunteer, like I want to say posses, to use an old Western term, but like volunteer kind of groups of folks getting together, different ones to kind of meet some of these threats. Could you talk about how you feel about those, what you think about those types of efforts, and is that a way potentially for students to build experience in cybersecurity or maybe kind of expand their network in that way?
So I'd say absolutely yes. It's an amazing opportunity. Anything you can do to get to be part of the community. And LinkedIn is such an amazing thing for that. If you start following people that are big in the cyber field, they will post all sorts of meetings and events going on and opportunities and ways to help. And that's just a great way to make connections and to also increase your skills so that you can say, hey, I was part of this effort. Or, you know, as Deidre mentioned earlier, I did a capture the flag competition, and that's where you really meet people. And it still is very much, I think, a networking game. You know, the more people that you meet, the easier it is to find roles. They know people in other companies. They know who's looking for things. It's a tight-knit community of cyber folks. We tend to know a lot of the same people. So those are amazing ways to do that. And really even just to start posting, you know, comments to things. I know a lady in Raleigh, it's been really interesting. She was working at AT&T as a project manager, and she wanted to get more into the cyber field. And so I talked to her many times, and, you know, I'm very assertive. So I'm like, hey, send a note to the CISO, tell them you want to do this, you know, here's your background. She took a very different route. She started like writing articles on cyber and relinking things that she saw or posting about job things. And she's really gotten a following, I've been watching, of people that now consider her to be a cyber expert because she's sharing the knowledge and taking others in. So I think there's a lot of things you can do on your own to get that experience.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I'd say it's a must. You know, while we're short people, we don't know how to onboard people, and cyber needs our experience and passion. So going out and getting involved in projects shows passion, and it gets you experience. So those are the two things that you need. And then number three is that it really gives you the networking that Shelley's talking about. And cyber professionals are social servants, in my opinion. They are so community oriented. They are always seeking to help. There's lots of groups, you know, the international, the ICMCP that Carrie talked about that I'm on the board of, you know, again, an organization that's providing scholarships, training, WESIS, another one. You know, go get involved in those meetups, those organizations, go to the online happy hours, whatever you can get your hands on, and start socializing and spreading the word about what you want to do, and look for some projects that you can get yourselves on. We're kicking off in the Bay Area, a not-for-profit program with the state for taking folks without experience and having them work underneath somebody that's working on a government-sponsored project so that we can get people experience. It's really experience and passion, the two things you must show up with.
That's just a good guideline for, I think, anything that you get into, experience and passion. I really love that. Thank you so much. I don't think that we have any more.
Hey, Carrie, just one other thing I wanted to mention. Within the cyber field, the other thing that's important to remember is you saw like those different categories of jobs. So if you go, I personally believe this is a field where you can't be bored. If you go in and you are doing a job that you don't like in the cyber field, there's 15 other things you can do. If you go into a managed service area and you don't want to do that, you want to be a consultant, you know, you don't like being a consultant, you want to do more of a technical role and become an attack and pen tester, there's 100 things you can do. And that's why I really like this field. It's impossible to be bored in it, literally impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can transfer in between them all. Lots of people are doing it all day long right now. There's value to that.
Thanks so much to the both of you. I found that really helpful. It's hard to facilitate these things and not feel like, oh, I think I really need to go into that other career. And I say that a lot, but I'm really not joking. It's like, that sounds like it's full of and rich with opportunities. So this is recorded, which, you know, I made sure to let both of you all know. So it will be available in advance to anybody that, I heard so many things that normally I would take notes about, but I'm just going to go back and pull it out. So thanks so much to the both of you, and you are both on LinkedIn and post a lot there. I am also going to share with students Deidre, the link that you mentioned, the video that you did.
The WESIS talk, yeah, with Nathan Chang. That's a good one for job searching.
I'll follow up with that with all of our attendees today and send you all that link. And then you also just have some other stuff on your LinkedIn profile that's useful for anybody looking to get into cybersecurity. So I definitely recommend that folks follow both of you on LinkedIn. So thanks so much to both of you. I hope that you and everyone else on the call stays well and happy and healthy.
And I hope to be back at Duke in person soon.
I would love that. I hope to be back there in person soon.
Yeah.
Stay well, everyone.
Together.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great call, or have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.